Hello. We're going to build that guy. Maybe it's that way in the video. So this is the new StewMac International House of Overdrive rare pedal kit. I just picked this up, and I like to build pedal kits, and I like to, I guess, record videos of me building those pedal kits. So we're going to go from start to finish. The only thing I did beforehand was I finished the case. I didn't do anything special. It's just primer, Krylon, and some clear coat. Here's the stickers that come with it. I wanted to try and incorporate that. My wife had it and thought it was pretty cool, and I'm not sure exactly how. I think it actually might look better on the white one, and I might modify this a little bit, maybe just go with, I don't know. But anyway, let's get right to it. So we know the pedal case is already finished. Here's the contents of the box. The book, we'll follow along with the book here. Components, more components, screws for the pedal case. We're just going to set these aside for now. And then the circuit board. And then, so I have, let me see if I can get this. I have one of the StewMac circuit board holders, but the first couple pedal kits I didn't use the holder. And I think, I don't know, I might go back old school and do it this way. So I'm just going to give you a fair warning, even though I have a fair amount of experience working with electronics, I don't see color properly, and it sure makes reading resistor bands a pain in the butt. What I've done in the other videos where there is a lot of resistors that I have to work with, before I start, I take all the resistors out and I get a meter. I have various meters. I mean, you could use a cheapie like that one. You could use a more expensive one, like one of these guys here. I mean, I have handfuls of these all over, but we're just going to use this guy here for now, and I'll use that to measure my resistances. I'll rely on the descriptions and the instructions to take care of the capacitance and all that. So what's really cool with the StewMac kit, some of the other kits, you get plastic inputs, and honestly, there's nothing too wrong with them. In some guitars, I've had to install them, but I like with these, you get the Switchcraft ones. I don't know, I feel like there's good components in these. All right, so let me get this book out of the way. Let's get this box out of the way. And let's see here. We're going to get a couple tools ready, just in case here. This clicking off the side, I buy these cheap solder pumps. They're great. You can just pitch them if you have a problem. And they come usually in a 3-pack. You can get them on Amazon. I have some of the more expensive ones, but I'll just tell you for the convenience, just get the cheapies. Okay, so let's get some tools. And we'll get the soldering iron cable plugged in here. So, all right, tool time. What do we think we will need? Well, we're going to need some solder. And I like the little bit of flux on the legs of the potentiometers. You don't have to, it's optional. Pair of strippers, always helpful. Cutters, always helpful. And these pliers. So a lot of my tools are Klein tools, and I really like Klein, but I just want to show you these. These are Crescent that I bought at Home Depot. I actually went to buy another set because I really liked these, and the Home Depot prices have went up on these. They're still a great value, but these flush cutters, you can get very close to something. Let's see if I can get this in focus. How close they cut. So the cutting would be over here. I mean, you could almost shave with that. And then these little pliers are just great. So strippers, cutters, pliers, always good to have. Got our soldering iron on. I'll move our solder off camera here. We're not going to use it right yet, but I'll just move it over here. Don't need this right yet. Don't need this right yet. So don't need this right yet. All right, let's get a razor blade and start opening things up. This is the bezel for the LED. This is one of your inputs. And I don't think this pedal here, if you see smoke, that's coming off of the soldering iron. That's melting the flux from tinning the tip after my last usage of it. So what I do when I finish up soldering for the session that I'm doing, so whatever repairs that I'm working on, when I'm all done, I clean the tip, then I hit it with some fresh solder, and then I turn the station off and just let that cool. And that way it preserves the tip. I do quite a bit of soldering, and you want to have a good healthy tip on the iron that helps transfer heat and make things a little bit easier. So you want to preserve the tip if you can. If you don't, you can buy new ones. It's not a big deal, but why buy it if you don't have to? These are weather stripping pieces that go on the back of the potentiometers. I can tell this without even looking at the instructions. I know from experience with the StewMac kits in general. So we're going to get a little bit of this out of the way here. Okay, that's kind of odd. So 2 of our pots came there. Oh, okay, I see why this one's set aside. This is a reverse audio taper. All right. Reverse audio taper. So with this padding, what we'll do is we'll put a piece of this on the back of this. We'll get to that here in a second. Let me get some of this stuff out of the way. All right, we got the switch. We'll get this guy out too. And we'll just set these nuts and all that here for now. You know what? We'll open the bezel too. Let's try and get some of this trash out of the way so we can get us. Can't even speak tonight. So we can just get to work. Okay, so there's some items. Might as well get the circuit boards out. Now, I could bore you to death like I usually do because I have a tendency to talk too much. I don't know what in the hell is wrong with me, to be honest with you. But I like to teach and all that stuff, and if I have a little knowledge, I like to help with it. Okay. So then what happens is the teacher comes out, I guess. And that's from a lot of years of all the different things. Judo, teaching that, teaching photography, teaching guitar. All I'm doing here is because I know I'm going to do this later. I'm just breaking the tabs off of the potentiometers. I know I'm going to have to do it because these indexing pins, they're important if you have a situation where you have to index something. But in pedals and in most electric guitars, you don't have to index anything. So what we're going to do, we're just going to break those tabs off now so we can skip that step. Okay, another thing that we're going to do, just because we know it's going to come up, might as well put these little stickies on. This is a B25K. This is an A50K. And this here is the C50K. That's reverse. All right. So there's our pots. They're already dressed and ready to go. The knobs, they can get set aside for now because we don't need them yet. DC jack, don't need it yet. Other jacks, don't need it yet. All right, so we're going to go through some of this with the manual and then some of it without the manual. And the reason is I don't want to bore you with all of the stuff with it. So, okay, I'll read this here and then we can get right to it. The pedal from the 1970s that's still piping hot, based on the Crowther Hotcake and Overdrive, which first became available around 1976. This was one of the earliest handmade boutique effects pedals available. The circuit was designed to be what is now referred to as a transparent overdrive, an effect that enhances the player's sound while keeping the original tone intact. The circuit has gone through many changes since its inception, and we have further expanded on the design by returning to an earlier version most revered by players and removing the buffer, which resulted in a reworked circuit that is true bypass but still retains the charm of the design. We also include the original LM741 IC chip found in the originals, as well as the TLO71 that is found in the later versions, so you can experiment which IC best suits your playing style. Because the hot cake is made one by Paul Crowther, they fetch premium prices. Okay. I usually do a little bit better reading with the radio voice. That comes from a bit of time doing radio and video stuff where you had to speak in a different voice. So here's our component list. 3 10K resistors, 2 1 meg, 3 100K, 2 220s, 1 1K, 147, 1 82K. So what I'm going to do right now, so I'll move that book right here. I'm going to take these components and put them here. Now, I'm working on this like you would be working on it at your kitchen table. There are mats that are used when you are soldering and sorting electrical components, little silicone trays and all that good stuff. But I'm going to work at this like the way I worked on my first one. Actually, oh, sugar. And you'll catch me saying that. My toddler is now repeating things, so I can't say the swears that I sometimes have been known to do. So I say, oh, sugar, quite a bit. But anyway, the first one of these I did it off of the back of a rigid toolbox that I have some random stuff sitting in. All right, so let's get the meter here, and we're just going to start looking, see what we can get. Well, this is a diode. We don't want to meter that, so we'll just move that there. We have 1K resistor. So now when I do this, I know this is 1K. Higher values this way, lower values this way. Now, if you're not familiar, you can take and move your knob. So if you don't know how to transpose, this 99.4 comes out to 100K. So we have 1 and then 100. This here's a 0.2. What's that tell you? It's a 220. 220 is lower than 100. I'm betting this is going to be the 82, just based on the picture. Yep, 82. So 220, 1, 82K, 100K. $10K. Now, if you have that where it says open loop on a meter like that, that means you might be in a setting that can't read it. So this here is the 1 meg, one of them. There should be 2 of them. And again, I apologize. I don't see the color bands properly anymore. You get older, that happens. So what I'm doing now is I'm just looking for that other 1 meg. There it is. So there's our 1 megs right here. And then what you can do, when you're sorting, you can just go like this. Little magic markers handy. This is if you can't see the color bands, like me. So I know these are 1 meg. What's this guy here? This is the 10K, another 10K, so these two go together. This is our 4.7. So we have 1, 220, 82K, 100K. Here's our 4.7. This is another 220 ohm. Remember, we have 2 of those. We'll just double check that we have the okay. So what I'll do Just the same thing. Or these again. These were 10s. We should have one more 10K. It's not that. It's this guy right here. Then I'll bring these closer to the camera so you can get a look at the color bands. Oh, gotta meter that again. 10K. I'll bring this a little closer. And some folks might actually be able to make out all the color bands on that, and that's fine. I can't. My color vision has been getting actually worse over the years, and I didn't think that was possible, but these things happen. So I know these are 10K. I don't want to beat that high up. So I just go just like this. Now, again, this seems tedious. Oh, look at that. We dropped one out of our little bundle. This seems tedious, but this is how I do it, so I know what I'm grabbing. Now, remember what I said. If your value is too low on your meter, it's just 100K, 100K, and we had 3 that were 100Ks. I know it's this. So bring these a little closer for you to look at. They're all 100K. So just get a little piece of tape. But back to what I was saying. So normally when I build these pedals, I sort this all out beforehand. But I wanted to show this. Let's just pretend you know how to solder and you know a little bit, but you don't know how to read color bands. Or if you do know how to read color bands, you're like me, or just you don't see color right. This is how I do it. Okay, so we set these aside. Now remember, I know that's 82K. This is 4.7K. And this should be our 1K. Maybe. What did I do here? This is our 4.7. Uh-oh. Did I make a boo-boo? I did. This is a 10K. So let's go to our 10K pile and see which one I screwed up on. Because we should only have 3 10Ks. It's one of them. It's one of them. This here's the 1K. So this is the interloper. This is the 1K. You'll never, ever find me too embarrassed to check my work. So, these are truly the 10K. This guy here, 4.7. So 1. Yep. Okay, we're in good shape. So we can get to our next step where we just start following the instructions along here and start doing what they tell us to do. So here's our instruction sheet. It goes through your components, what all you have. And we can reference back to this because if you don't know how to read these, the capacitors, so this capacitor says 471, and it says it very, very tiny. I don't even know if I can get that in focus. If my iPhone wants to focus on that. Doesn't look like it. But it's 471. You're like, well, what in the heck one is it? Well, it's this guy here. And then you look at your other one. This says 823. Well, what's 823? Well, this is the 0.082. So if you don't know how to look at that stuff, you might want to reference your instruction sheet. So, and all that comes down to is how to read capacitance and all that. So let's get to the next page here. More components, more components. This gives you a little bit of how to paint it. This tells you a little bit about reading the color bands and all that. So here, I'm going to out myself a little bit. I know these are different colors because there's a name right here, okay? These two look the same to me. These three look the same to me. This and this look the same. This and this look the same. And then one of the other things, you can't see it when you look at it like this, but if we move this green down by the violet, I may not be able to tell them apart. And if you put the green, violet, and brown together, it's debilitating trying to do this kind of work. You get a little bit of history on the components, you know, what they do, what their jobs are. Gives you a quick primer on soldering. I'm just going to tell you, the best way to learn to solder is to do it, get a piece, try and get it to go, and when you notice it starts working, just keep doing more jobs. It's going to come together. It's hard to learn it just by reading like this. All right, so what's the first step of this book? First step of the book, we have the book, we have this, and what it wants us to put in is the socket. Now this socket, and a lot of other pedals, you'll see where they just directly put the IC in the holes. These sockets allow you to interchange between different components, and they're actually very handy. And you want to be mindful, there is a notch in the socket. I don't know if you can see that very well. And that notch is not present on the other end. Actually, I bet I know how we could show this up even better against a white background. So one side's notched, one side's not. And that notch corresponds to a dot or a divot or whatever that's in the IC for orientation. So using these, you can just change components out by popping the chip in and out without heating up the chip and potentially damaging it. And if you don't know a lot about soldering, that's very easy to do. So let's get this soldered into place. Let me move my stove here. I apologize. I want to try and do this so that I don't hover my head over because, well, I'm bald and old and all that now, but I also want you to be able to see the work as it's done. But one of the things, when you get older, your eyes don't focus as close as you would like. So sometimes you have to get a little bit closer to your work. So what I'm hoping is that I can do a little better for you this time. I know my last one, I kind of screwed up the positioning and all that, and I apologize. But you really don't get a redo with a pedal. You know, it's built, you know, when you're done, so it's like, what do you do? Okay, so our IC has been installed. The solder joints look good. Now, I'm going to wait to put the op amp in. We'll come back to that. I want to do all the mechanical work now. And then we'll flip a coin to see what we're going to get. So this is something that's important. On this page, it says, like the op amp, orientation of this diode is critical. The black band around the diode. Note that there's a black band around the diode, and on the location of the diode on the circuit board, there's a white band printed on the left-hand side. Install the diode so the band matches. So when you look at a printed PCB and you're looking where a diode goes, so this is where the diode goes, that stripe is where the stripe on the diode goes. And let me move this. So if you notice, there's a little black stripe. That's where the stripe goes on the diode. So we're just going to pop this in like this. Now, this is absolutely not necessary to do it the way that I'm going to do it, but I'm going to leave that diode up just a tiny bit. I think it's going to look cool. I have something I'm planning, and I'm not telling anyone. Okay, so our diode's in. Looks great. I don't like to cut my ends immediately. I like to give them a couple seconds to cool. All right, so that guy's in. That's our diode. I think it looks pretty cool sitting up just a little bit. Now it tells us that it wants us to put all the resistors in. If we look at this board, you'll see there's a whole bunch of numbers on it, and that tells you the values of the resistors. So let me get a pointer here. Well, my plastic one is not right up front, but this not pointer will work. This shape here, how it kind of has a little bit of a barrel at the end, and then it narrows in the middle, that's a resistor. These rectangles, they are capacitors. These circles are also capacitors. The difference is the circles are polarized, these are not. So this step, we're going to be putting in all of the resistors. So put this tool back. Okay. I want to put this 82K in because it's little. No other reason other than just it's little. And what I think I might do is I might do everything on this row first, and then I'll do the next row. So let's get our 220. One of them goes on this side. Forget I'm trying not to take this out of the view here. Okay, so there's our 220. We need a 10K. Did I end up marking the 10Ks? Yes, I did, because we had 3 of them. We need one right here. We actually need a second 10K, because it's going to go 10, 100, 10. So sometimes I use my pliers to just help it along. You don't have to. You can fight it and look silly like I usually do. Okay, what did I say we needed? 100K. It's one of these guys. And then if you're ever in doubt, you know, even though I know this is what it is, if you're ever in doubt, just get your meter back out. It's 2 connections, easy peasy. And there's nothing wrong with double checking your work. Too often folks think when they're working on things, it has to be, they know every single thing perfectly every time. And yeah, you should know what in the hell you're doing. But I think it's helpful to be able to check yourself and be able to troubleshoot on your own. You know, what's going on here? What did I do wrong? Okay, so next we need another 10K. And you'll hear me preach that a lot. Don't be afraid to double check yourself. Golly knows I do it. All right, so for this step, I'm just going to solder the resistors on this side. Okay, so gonna let them cool off for a second. I'm just gonna flip this over and see what my next row is going to be. It's gonna be another one of those 220s. So it's gonna be this guy, and it's gonna be a 1 meg. So one of this guy, a 100K, just like that, a 10K, another 100K, one of our 1Ks, that's what this guy is. And that finishes that row. I think that's that might be our 4.7. Just gonna check here. Nope, that's our 1K. This is our 4.7 then. Yep. Okay. Let's cut these ends off. I know I took that out of your view. I was just making sure I didn't have a solder bridge. I didn't. Close, but not quite. Okay, so remember, this is our 4.7. Oh, it jumped at me. Let's just get this in. Okay, top to bottom here. Now, if you want, you can double check yourself all the way down. Like we know the next one, what do we have to have here? It says 1 meg. That's our 1 meg. So when I lined them up how they would go down the side here. I have to remember to quit taking that off the camera there. So this next one here is going to be a 100K. So just showing you there, being able to change your meter. So pull that in. One of the other things too, I mean, this is just something to put in your wheelhouse, is to check your meter leads. So I'm just going to distract here for a second. So this can actually, if you're working in different environments, this can actually save your life. Making sure my leads are good. Check resistance. Shows me there's no resistance. So I know my leads are good here. Continuity is another way to check them. Just that can save your your life if you're working in an environment, and if your meter leads are screwed up, you might read something and think, oh, I'm safe. And then it turns out, well, you weren't safe. And now you're dead or you're injured. And if you're dead, you're not watching the video. But if you're injured, you might be. So check your meter. And then you can check your meter off another meter too. I do that sometimes when I'm working in the field on something. If I have any doubt of my meter, check it off another one. Because sometimes you'll be working in something and like, what in the hell's going on here? This isn't the way that you would expect it. And you want to make sure your meter's not lying to you. So check your meter and then have a backup meter to check it off of. And another tip I'll give you, well, you already know this if you're working with it. If you're doing amperage, don't switch your meter while it's still in line with the circuit. You'll pop the fuse. I've seen many of shop classes where the student destroyed the meter. Well, destroyed the fuse. I mean, it's fused, but anyway, I'm rambling about nonsense. Okay, this is our last resistor that we're going to put in. Well, no, that's actually a lie. We have 3 variable resistors, the potentiometers, but the actual physical resistors, this is it. So I'll sit down here for a moment and solder these into place. I'll move that a little more towards the center. I noticed the last time I did it, I was like almost at the end, falling off the frame. You feel bad when you're doing that. You're like, oh, sugar. Trying to show folks how to do something. Meanwhile, I'm showing them that I'm a terrible videographer. You would think that maybe with my photography background, I'd be better at video, but I get impatient and frustrated. It's actually one of the reasons you haven't seen some of the new equipment videos that I'm planning on doing. It's like, oh, you set up, you try and get the lighting right, you try and get the framing right, and then something just happens and irritates you. Okay, time to do some more cutting. Can't really say what got me interested in doing pedal kits. Because really all you're doing is following instructions. So it's, I guess, like building a model car, model airplane or whatever. But I like pedals. And I have a couple. And I don't know, there's just something about making something and then seeing that it works. Okay, bring this a little closer for you to see. Okay, if I'm, let's see here, where I need to be, I should have done this before, but give me 1 second. I'll clean up some of these legs here. Oh, don't want to lose our parts. Just cleaning up the work area a little bit. You may recall in a previous video, I said that I keep the garbage can away so I get some extra steps. And sometimes that's a pain in the rear end. Get a drink of pop here. All right. Let's go to our next step. So let's see, electrolytic capacitors. For this, there's 3. And with these, you have to observe polarity. I'll show you here. There's a couple ways that you can be sure. So one of these legs is longer than the other. And, oh, excuse me. If you notice, the shorter leg is negative. Little dash, short leg. So the stripe is negative, the long leg is positive. The value of this capacitor, it's a 10 UF, okay? So what we do, we look where it goes here. It goes right here on the board, 10. Longer leg, positive. Shorter leg, negative. Fit it in, boom. Next one. Same thing. Our value's right there. Capacitors are measured in farads or fractions thereof. So you have pico, micro, nano, all that, all the metric prefixes. But if you're not at all interested in learning about electricity and you just want to do pedal kits, 10 UF, 10 UF, easy. So go to our next one on the board. Remember, longer legs positive, shorter legs negative. This goes in, boom, just like that. And just because we want it to look a little neater. Now, resistors are a little bit more hardy to heat than like capacitors or diodes or transistors and things of that nature. So when you do these, try and work a little bit quicker. Not sloppy, just be more mindful. You don't want to cook your components. Now this is 100 UF, and you can tell that this does more because it's bigger, larger, I guess. So remember, longer legs positive, shorter legs negative. Goes right in, like so. Now when I do a capacitor, if I'm doing multiple, I do one leg at a time, then I go back. It's completely unnecessary. It's just one of those dumb things that I developed that I do. All those joints look good. Time to cut the legs that are long. So those guys are in. Looks pretty good. Let's flip to our next page here. The remaining capacitors below are not polarized. However, the best practice is to solder them in place with the text facing the bottom of the circuit board. That way, if you were to hold it, you'd look this way. So let's go with this guy here is our 0.082 UF. And it draws an arrow and it shows you it goes right here. And right here on the board, it shows 82N. Well, this is a 0.082U, and this is an 82N. That's the metric prefixes, that's all. So 82 nano is what this is showing, is the same as this. So we just pop that guy right in like that. Okay. Our next one's the 470. Now remember, these are not polarized. So that 470 goes right here. on the board where it says 470p. I'm going to leave that a little higher. I don't know why. I just feel like doing it. Now, one of the things you can do when you're soldering components like this is you can use a heat sink. And for general guitar building and pedal building, you don't need to do that. I do it for other electrical repairs, but not for this. Oh, I'm taking it off camera again, sorry. Just bringing it close to my face so I can see if I cut everything. What I should do is get my magnifier out. But I don't want to admit any more than I already have that when you get older, your eyesight changes. Oh, sugar. All right, we're back. So move the LED over here. Just want to see something. Okay, we're good. Final 3 capacitors. Let's open these guys up. This one here is the MMK BR250. Look at the top, 22NJ. Well, if we look here, our 22NJ goes, boom, right here in the bottom, where the 22N is. Pretty self-explanatory. Our giant red one, it's a WMA 0.01. Nothing on top, but we know it goes right here, where it says 10N. Now, what I'm doing here is I just bend the legs over to hold it in place when I flip it over. There's other ways to do it too. You can use tape, magic, voodoo, whatever your preferred method is. This is our 56 NK. Goes right here. Bend that over. Now I want to move this because I don't want to solder the legs together. So here we go. Capacitors are almost done. Don't know what your plans were for this evening, but played a show today, and then after the show I played, I was going to go check out a friend's band, and I was just like, I think I'm in for the night. It's been a long day. And then another friend's band's playing, and then another friend's band's playing. It's like all of us were playing tonight. And kind of wild. Where I live, a lot of people really like Penn State, so they were pretty excited about the game and then not excited after the game. I don't follow it too much. I like baseball, and I don't want to hear anyone complaining about their team because the team that I like, they've been breaking my heart my whole life. I'm sure you can tell from some of the other videos. I've been a Pirates fan forever. All I'm doing here is just dressing up some of these joints that I cut. That's all. I'll show you how I do it. Just quickly melting and reflowing it. That's it. The reason for that is I just like all the shapes to look the same when it's all done. I don't like to have one where I cut half into the blob. Looks pretty good. All right. So this is where these StewMac kits get to be a little bit more fun because you get to cut some wire and then, you know, oh, how long is this? Did they give me enough wire? All that beeping is the reminder on the meter. Hey, you forgot about me. So this kit comes with 2 feet of 22 gauge lead wire. Using the correct 22 gauge slot on your wire stripper, cut 8 1.5-inch sections. 8 1.5-inch sections. All right. Well, so this is a machinist rule. 16ths, 30 seconds, tenths. I mean, you know, it's pretty good stuff. But we want to go 1.5 inch sections according to that, right? So you go to 30 seconds here. So I'm just going to use here. I'm going to bury the 1, as I call it, and just move up. So 1.5 inches, it says. The meter says, I am finally done. This gives us our 4th. We do this. So just based on this picture here, 4 go into the switch, and then 2 will go to the power, and then 2 will go to one end of the jacks. Right? I think that's 7. 3. No, it's 6. Oh my gosh, I can't even count. I could have set those all down. Just use 1 as a reference again. But I like to make things difficult for myself. All right, set this aside. Strip 3 30 seconds. Do you really want to measure like this? Oh yeah, no. I just eyeball it. I don't know what I'm looking for. I actually do, but I think it's funny. That's it. And it wants off both ends, but I'm going to only do one end, and I'll show you why. All right, let's turn the page. Didn't I tell you that would come up? Breaking the tabs, doing this. Okay, so one of the steps, what it shows to do here, I know it's showing this, but I'm going to skip ahead to this real quick. So this is our switch. All I did was just dip those into some flux. You don't have to do it. It's just something I like to do. All right. We're going to take this guy here. It shows this. You don't want that side up. You want the side like this. You're going to go just like this. Your switch is going to fit right in there. It's going to be nice, nice. Okay. Now, when you do this, you can try and solder it this way. Or you can get your pedal case. You can stick it right through there. And use that to hold it. And that's what we're going to do for soldering the switch. there is another pedal company that recently closed their doors. Kind of pissed off about it because I had placed an order with them, and I contacted the guy. Oh yeah, we're getting everything shipped out. You'll get confirmation here soon. Another couple weeks go by, don't hear anything. Another couple weeks, don't hear anything. I hated to do it, but I had to file a chargeback on them on my card. A little bit of flux got on the pedal there. That's all right. Yeah, 7 weeks. Didn't hear anything back from the guy. No shipping confirmation or anything like that. So there we go. Just going to bring this closer to my eye so I can see. And you can all see there. That's good. Oh, maybe. Okay. Okay. So now, oh, one of the other things I guess I could show you. This is one of the things they talk about. When you're putting your stuff on, you can do this instead of getting hot flux on it like I did. So you can go like, oh, yay, whatever, you know. So you could go here. Oh, that's where this goes, you know, just like that. And then same with like, you know, there should be one. Wait, was that the LED one? Oh, that was the LED hole. Yeah, there'd be one here, one here, one here. Okay. So what we're gonna do is our C50K here. I'm just gonna go just like this real quick. Okay. So what's it want us to do here? Remove the nuts from the washers and the foot switch. All right, whatever. It wants us to put this here. We already did this part. Where's our C50K go? Goes here for the drive. So we go just like this. Like this. I'm not going super tight with this. I'm just putting it on there finger tight. This is going to help us line up the PCB and all that. I used to think this step sucked, thread it through the case. And then after fighting a handful of them, it's like, you know what? This is actually a really good idea. So that's why I do it now. Just like so. Like so. Maybe. So what this will do is when we put our PCB and all that together, these will be lined up correctly. And then when we put it back in the pedal on the other side, you don't run into any trouble with grounding yourself out or something going on here. So this is an A50. Your wires won't be the wrong size to reach your components. It's just what Benjamin Franklin say? Ounce prevention's, or yeah, what is ounce prevention's worth a pound of cure. I also like to put it on these. I should have done it before. So it's gonna look kind of goofy. You can use a brush to put it on, but it's late here. Daylight savings time, and we're just gonna make a mess. Why not, right? Okay, so we have our flux on everything. Now what do we want to do? It says with the component side of the board facing up. That means this facing up. Maneuver the lugs of the pots in the circuit board until the lugs slip into their appropriate holes on the circuit board. Okay, so all we're doing is going like this. putting everything in like so. And you can kind of finagle it, you know, to make sure that everything's fitting the way you like. Okay. So now we know that those are good. We can solder these in the position. And yes, I like a lot of solder when I do potentiometers. I like to make sure I have a good connection. I'm going to heat this up just a little bit because I want to push down on them. There we go. That's exactly what I was looking for. Just make sure everything looks good still. All I'm checking for there's cold solder joints. So that looks good. We're done with the flux for now. Put that away. Okay, let's get our switch back. So now what has to happen is the wires here, in, ground, switch, out, go to the corresponding spaces here. Like, well, why did you only do one side at a time? And it's like, well, the reason for that is I want to make sure they're all the same distance apart. They're all the same, distance apart. They're all the same length. Because when you go to make that nice fold, if one's, you know, an eighth, a quarter, or whatever longer, it's going to look silly. So one of the ways you can hold these in place is just a piece of tape. And then I'm going to flip it over here, solder my wires. Maybe I am. Okay, so those are all in. So when I bring these all up, this is what I mean, because I want that, when I roll this over, I want it to be neat. Well, do you see how they're pretty close, but they're not close. I mean, just like that, boom. Now I'll strip a little bit off each end. And don't worry, we're not done here yet either. Because we have to do our longer wires yet. So for this section right here, I'm going to tack them from the top. Then when I take the board out, I'll do it from the bottom. Because remember, these are nutted in right now. They're fastened because we put the nuts through the other side. See, that just makes that loop a little bit nicer. Now, we have to cut 2 more pieces. It says cut 2 4.5-inch leads. So we'll get our wire here. And we'll get our handy dandy roller. We need 4.5 inches. Let's see what we get for the other one. So that's how much room for error you have with one of the kits. But I mean, it is what it is. Everything costs money. The wire costs money per foot. Might seem silly, but it's the way the world works. Okay, so there's that. Now, let's see here. It actually does tell us to put these other wires in. I was like, why didn't it tell us to do that yet? But if you notice, I haven't exactly been reading the instructions. I've just been kind of following along. We are absolutely in the final stretch. So now we're going to take our contraption apart. I'm going to touch any of those joints that need touched on the bottom. That sounded like something that could get you banned from YouTube. Give me the nut. It says no. Let's move this aside. Oh, let's get our pedal out here. So we're just going to check our wires on this side here. I'm just going to trim the excess like usual. I can hear my old electronics instructor now. You used enough solder that you could have soldered a TV. When I do lugs on potentiometers, I really like to make sure there's enough on it. on a PCB mount like this. I have to make sure some comes over there. And he's like, oh, I just know how he would be. All right, so this is what we have here. We're able to take all this crap off. Let's go to our next page. So an LED is a diode. Diode's the same as the other one. There's an anode and a cathode. Longer end is positive. So we're going to take this LED thing here. This is what holds the LED. Put the bezel right. Oh, that's a knob, not a bezel, you goof. And let's get this lock nut on there. Maybe. Holy cats. It's about to not get a lock nut. It's about to get smashed. There we go. Spin that bad boy on. All right. Got a little diode like this. Now, this is important. Remember, long end's positive. Okay? So our little LED lives its life. Now, this is the side that'll be pushed through the front, and the LED is going to come this way. So if we look here, we have A, we have K. That shows you anode and cathode. If you look here, you can see the next step, how this pushes through. Let me move this out of the way. The positive's the anode. So you want the positive to go through this side. So we want the positive to be like this. Right there. So the positive's on this side. Our LED's there. Now, this is what it's telling you. Take all the stuff apart, which we did. We're going to put this all in, okay? Now, before we do that, we're going to put this guy in, because the next step is where we drop everything in. So this is our power socket. Go in just like that. If I was writing that book, I would have probably said to put the power socket in before the LED. But what do I know? Let's see if we can get that, not the thread on it. So now, reach over here and grab one of these little wrenchies. If I was writing the book, I think I would have put the jack in before the LED. So now, we're going to drop this in here. So, don't be a dummy like me and then realize this after the fact. spin one of the nuts they give you on. Maybe. Holy heck. Falling apart today, guys. The lock washer goes inside. These go outside. So just to do it, we're just going to date. It's after midnight. It's 11:03. Just what I do on some of these that I build. Oh, here I am telling you not to forget your stuff, and then what am I doing? Forgetting my stuff. So our switch is there, and all we're gonna do is a little, I'm not gonna tighten it down, work it down. We're just gonna loosely put it there till we get this LED situated. So let's get all of our wires out of the way. And try and get the LED to do its thing. And this is like the worst part of all of the StewMac kits that I've done, is getting the LED to go where you want, because you have to bend it down and up into where you're at. So to me, it almost seems like it's better to kind of do it like this here. Pull this piece from the bezel back out. Go like this. I want to make sure we have enough room to reach. Oh, you're probably looking at my head, I'm sorry. You don't want to see that. Then go back to the bezel. We'll loosen this up here so we have a little bit more play. Come on, friends. We're all friends here. Like I said, this is the part I hate about the StewMac kits, is getting this LED just right. You'll have to forgive me. I'm going to pull this closer to my face, about off camera for a second, just so I can get a better look. We're almost there. Uh-oh, we lost the bottom of the foot switch. Just the nut. I can pop it right back in, not a big deal. I just hate these bezels. Why don't you want to go in? Kind of being rude. Making this video needlessly long. Well, I don't really care about you right now. I'm doing everything else without you. That's what happens. We can deal with that later. Okay, so we're going to go to this side, fasten our switch down a little bit better. Okay. Switch is down. Like this. Get these nuts on here. So there's that. Like this to be a little straighter. These wires to have that nice bend that I measured so carefully for. Like I said, they don't give you a lot of wire to work with. Be very careful. Here's our bezel fiasco right here. I'll take care of that with some silicone RTV. That'll fix that right up. Yeah, that'll be perfect. All right, next step. So these here are for your power, and they go to this guy right here. So strip a little bit off. And the way they lay this out, it's this side to this side, this side to this side. Gonna go just like that. Beautiful. All right, I bet the next step's the jacks. Look at that. Okay. So this guy's gonna go just like this. Just like thus. And just like before, this close one's going to go here. This one's going to go here. Just putting a little loop on that. This side right here goes to this one. Looks good. Next guy, right here. Here it goes. We're getting there. Probably should have told you, what, an hour and a half ago, that the only sound sample we're going to do is just to verify it works. I'll do an actual video on the sound of it. And don't forget, we need to deal with this IC chip. Which chip do we want? So I'll have to read what it says. Okay, so there's that. Those are all in. Now let's get our chip. Let's straighten these up a little bit. I want it to look nice. And bring this one up a little. This one here like that. I think that looks pretty good. Move the solder here. And where were our chips? Where did I put them? Up here. Okay. So we're going to go back in the book or talked about the chip. So the LM741 is the one in the OG, and the TL71 is found in the later. The TL71 has more headroom, than the LM741, which distorts faster. You can experiment which works for you. Well, if this is supposed to be a transparent boost, we don't want it to distort faster, do we? So this is the 741, and this is the TL071. So we're just going to pop that in for now. Maybe. Get a little bit lower so I can look at it. That's that. They're all in. All right. Move this to the side for later. Maybe experiment with it. I don't know. What's the next page? Solder everything. We already did that. Put our stickers on. I'm not going to bore you with that. That's theirs. There's ours. Very, very similar. Okay. Now, moment of truth. Do we have power? Oh, man. So the first thing I'm going to check it is just with a battery quick, because this will tell us if we're good with power supply or battery. You know, if you're using whatever. Well, this actually doesn't have a battery jack. Boom. Works. Okay. So actually we'll leave the battery in it for now. All I'm going to do here, because it's quite late where I'm at. Well, first off, since I'm done soldering, I'm going to go like this. Do what I told you about, putting a protective layer on my iron, just like that. That's it. Put the solder away. Get these pliers out of the way. Then we'll plug in this cab. It's quite late here in the house, so we're not going to really crank this up at all. So this here would be the output. I'm going to turn all the knobs all the way down. This is volume, this is presence, this is drive. And let's get a guitar. I don't even know if this thing's in tune. Close enough for this. Okay, let's get another drink of pop here. Get our cable. Excuse me. Now, might have to turn this a little lower. So this is a completely clean amp. Turn very low. Now, remember this is volume, so we're going to bring this up just a little bit. presence to probably what we have. Turn the volume back a little bit. Drives up pretty high. Turn the amp volume down a little bit more. Now, I don't want to get killed here because it's late at night, but it works, does what it's supposed to do. So what I'll do is I'm going to put the knobs on it and maybe the stickers, I haven't decided. And then I'll do a video of the sounds from this pedal here. So that'll be it for the evening. Thank you for watching. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Take care.